WrestleMania 40 is still 4 months away as of the making of this video. However, that's not going to prevent me from being an obnoxious wrestling fan and trying to connect the dots and trying to predict what the WrestleMania 40 match card is going to be. Now, I did make this video about 3 months ago. However, the return of a little nobody that you may have heard about, I don't know, a guy named CM Punk or something, kind of threw a wrench in everything that I predicted back then. So today I'm going to give you an updated yet still way too early WrestleMania card prediction. Hey, as always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know you're gonna fall in love with this channel because we upload daily wrestling content. Now, before we jump into the actual card itself, I just want to preface that not every single major WWE superstar is gonna be in this predicted card. And that's because I've only made matches that I think make narrative sense based on the landscape of the WWE today, which of course could drastically shift overnight. So that means that not all of your favorite major WWE superstars are gonna be in this video. However, I still think that they are going to be part of WrestleMania in some way, shape, or form. Also, the tag team division is like impossible to try and predict for at this point, so I just didn't include them on here, but I still think that they're going to be at WrestleMania. Okay, now let's jump into it. Rey Mysterio versus Santos Escobar at WrestleMania 40 is a perfect match to have. Not only does it narratively make a tremendous amount of sense with Santos Escobar turning heel on Rey Mysterio, injuring him and forcing him to have surgery, but this is also the tale of Santos Escobar, a man who is now reborn, who is now a true heel, one of the top heels on Friday Night SmackDown. And what better way to cement Santos Escobar as a top true heel of SmackDown than to have him go off against the returning masked superhero there to avenge the injury that was caused upon him in Rey Mysterio. The storyline makes sense. The storyline is good. And the match itself could be absolutely fantastic because these two are masters of lucha libre style. Now, I know that Rey Mysterio just had surgery and is injured as of the making of this video, but he might still be able to return just in time for this matchup at WrestleMania. So if Rey is healthy and ready to go, I think that this is an obvious match to have. Another obvious match is main event Jey Uso versus his brother Jimmy Uso. They've both been public on the record saying that this is their end game, that they want to have a match at WrestleMania and that this is a dream for both of them. But that's them in the real world. From a character perspective, this match just makes a tremendous amount of sense, and WrestleMania to me is the only place that feels worthy for a matchup of this caliber. Typically, I don't like storylines of tag teams going head to head against one another, but this just works because of just how intricate the story is with the bloodline, the fact that they're brothers, the fact that Jimmy cost Jay the WWE Universal Championship at SummerSlam. It's all just too perfect. And frankly, when it comes to the bloodline storyline, it's starting to get fairly stale, and one of the last few remaining bastions of the bloodline storyline that I'm still clamoring to see is Jimmy versus Jay. Let's stay with the bloodline for a second and let's do AJ Styles versus Solo Sikoa. Another match that narratively just makes a tremendous amount of sense, with Solo Sikoa being the one that took out AJ Styles right before WWE Payback when he was scheduled to team up with John Cena. Now, we haven't seen AJ Styles since, but I gotta imagine that when he does come back, that he's gonna be gunning right after the bloodline, and it's likely going to lead to a head-to-head matchup at some point or another with Solo Sikoa. Now, for AJ Styles, this is a blood feud and this makes a tremendous amount of sense, and for Solo Sikoa, this would arguably be the biggest matchup he's ever had. I know he had a matchup with John Cena, and that's a big match, but it happened at Saudi Arabia, and I still refuse to believe that that ever happened, and this would be a major WrestleMania match. It's Solo's first major WrestleMania match and program, and it would be against none other than AJ freaking Styles. Look, this next one only exists because of CM Punk. He's the one that threw a wrench into all of this, so now I have Gunther, the Intercontinental Champion, defending against Brock freaking Lesnar. Look, right now, as of the making of this video, there's no narrative thread to really connect these two. However, I think I can make this work, because if Gunther doesn't win the Royal Rumble because he's no longer the odds-on favorite, then he still needs to have a major marquee match to help continue create prestige, even more prestige for that Intercontinental Championship. And I think that the ultimate test for Gunther would be Brock Lesnar. And in terms of a narrative, it can just be the fact that Gunther is finally meeting somebody that he deems worthy of sharing the ring with him. I mean, if you look at the feuds that he's had recently, more often than not, he always says, "Mike, you're a great professional wrestler, but you are not good enough to be in the ring ring with me, Gunther, the ring general. He's always talking about how people aren't worthy. So for him, finding Brock Lesnar could be that person that he finally deems worthy of a match against him. And we wanted Gunther versus Brock Lesnar at last year's WrestleMania, and instead they gave us Brock Lesnar versus Omos. So maybe finally they pull the trigger and give us what the fans want, which is just like the biggest meaty slapping meat fest of all time. That would be Gunther versus Brock Lesnar. I would die to see this. And this really would just be the cherry on top of Gunther's reign. To be able to say that Brock Lesnar went after his title is just such a monumental thing for the Intercontinental Championship. Fellas, cold turkey may be good on a sandwich, but as a strategy to stop a bad habit, it may not necessarily be the best. Because it doesn't necessarily take some Papa Shango voodoo-like magic to get rid of a bad habit. Sometimes you just need to get rid of the bad in the habit. And that's where the sponsor of today's video comes in, Fume. Fume is an innovative, award-winning, and frankly, really aesthetically pleasing flavored air device that does just that. They remove the bad from the habit. Instead of this being electronic, it's actually all natural and requires no charging. Instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air, and I literally mean that. It's just air. There's no haze or any sort of clouds. And for me, fellas, most importantly, instead of using harmful chemicals, Fume uses all natural flavors. Look, you're smart. You get it. What I'm trying to say is that instead of bad, Fume is good. It allows you to enjoy the not bad part of your habit in a guilt-free, natural way. Your Fume comes with an adjustable airflow dial and is designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving your fingers something to do, which is helpful for de-stressing when you're trying to break a bad habit. I've personally tested 7 different flavors, and I gotta say that my favorite by far is crisp mint. It just gives me a good feeling of like cooled and refreshed. I do have to admit I was a little bit skeptical about how strong flavored air is, but it is shockingly flavorful. And that adjustable airflow dial is what helps you determine how much of that flavor you want to bring in. Stopping is something that we've all put off because it's hard, but switching to Fume is easy, enjoyable, and even fun. Fume has already served over 150,000 customers with thousands of success stories, and there's no reason why that next success story can't be you. So join Fume in accelerating humanity's breakup from destructive habits by picking up the Journey Pack today. Head to tryfume.com/MrSantiZap or use the QR code and use code MrSantiZap to get 10% off of your Journey Pack today. You can also upgrade your Journey Pack to the Solano to enjoy that premium walnut barrel and onyx black coated mouthpiece that has a smoother finish and still get 10% off. Again, that's tryfume.com and use code MrSantiZap to get that additional 10% off today. Again, thank you to Fume for sponsoring today's video, and let's get back to it. This one I still have the exact same from my previous video, that being the champion Rhea Ripley taking on what I think is going to be the Women's Royal Rumble winner in Becky Lynch. A lot of people have Liv Morgan in this position, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I just don't see Liv Morgan being up to the caliber to be main eventing the women's side of WrestleMania against one of the most dominant women's world champion that we've had in recent memory in Rhea Ripley. I just don't see it. Plus, they've been doing their absolute damnedest to keep these two away from one another on TV and on PLEs. So to me, it just makes sense that they're trying to keep them away so that they could inevitably put them together for a WrestleMania program. Because honestly, look at who Rhea Ripley has gone up against on the Monday Night roster. She's gone up against everyone except Becky Lynch, even though Becky Lynch is probably the most worthy of going up against for her title. I'm telling you, they're saving this for WrestleMania, and I think that they're gonna make Becky Lynch the first ever 2-time Women's Royal Rumble winner. I think that the WWE is gonna give her her flowers and her thank yous for doing what she did with NXT, and I don't think that there's a bigger thank you than having her win the Royal Rumble again and taking on Rhea Ripley. I'm really certain that this is gonna happen. I also predicted this in my previous video, but I predicted it a little bit different because I said that LA Knight was gonna be the United States champion. So for this, I have LA Knight challenging Logan Paul for the United States Championship. Look, LA Knight has catapulted into popularity over the last 3 months. But the fact of the matter is that the main event scene is just far too crowded for those world championships, and I just don't think that there's any room left for LA Knight. That being said, just because he can't go for a world title doesn't mean that he can't have a main event worthy quality program versus Logan Paul for the United States Championship, which in my opinion, if this match were to happen for the United States Championship, would be debatably the biggest United States Championship match at WrestleMania ever. Dude, I'm just frothing at the mouth at the thought of this program between the two, the promos, maybe even an invitation on the Impulsive podcast. There is so much that they could do here. Both of these guys are so entertaining and they're so natural at it. And I think that their in-ring styles could actually mesh really well together. We have LA Knight, who's a bit slower, and then we have Logan Paul, who's a bit more of a fast-paced, almost kind of like a lightweight cruiserweight. And I think that the combination of these styles could end up being a really fun match. But I don't honestly care about the match. I care about the program, the talk shows, the promos, the podcast. This would just be must-see television. And I don't want people thinking that this is somehow a downgrade or a punishment or somehow beneath LA Knight. I don't think so. I think that if done properly, this can feel like a main event worthy program. Look, we haven't seen Bad Bunny since Backlash, and I think we all love Bad Bunny collectively because he's just so damn good and so darn entertaining. And if Bad Bunny were to come back to the WWE in time for WrestleMania, I would love to put him against Dominic Mysterio. Obviously, there is history there with Bad Bunny costing Dominic Mysterio his match against Rey Mysterio at last year's WrestleMania, everything that happened at Backlash between the LWO and the Judgment Day. So it's right there. We can revisit that storyline. And the fact that it's Dominic Mysterio in this program is just hilarious because we all love Bad Bunny and we all love to boo Dominic Mysterio. So it's just kind of a perfect fit. And WWE loves to give celebrities their victories at WrestleMania. And it's an easy victory here for Bad Bunny because somebody like Dominic Mysterio doing the job for Bad Bunny is entirely believable. This is the one that really just shook everything up. I have Seth frickin' Rollins going in as the World Heavyweight Champion, taking on CM Punk, the Royal Rumble winner. Look, I'm gonna be honest, I don't think that this match and this feud needs a title. I don't think that this needs a title. I think that the title needs this feud because all of us see the World Heavyweight Championship as a consolation prize. So to have CM Punk go after this championship automatically helps rejuvenate the prestige of this championship, because I genuinely debated having this match not be for the world title because, again, the history between these two doesn't really warrant it, but I feel like the title desperately needs this feud. So yes, I have CM Punk, who's now the odds-on favorite to win the Royal Rumble, and go on to challenge Seth Rollins in a feud that's probably going to last the better part of half a year. But look, like for CM Punk at WrestleMania, if it's not Stone Cold Steve Austin, it better be Seth Rollins. And if it's not Seth Rollins, it better be Stone Cold Steve Austin. The WWE has invested too much time, effort, and probably money in CM Punk. And if you're going to use Punk, who doesn't have a lot of formative years left, you better use him for the things that we desperately want him to see him do. And this is one of them, a main event match with Seth freaking Rollins. And this also serves as a nice full circle storyline for CM Punk, who never got to main event WrestleMania. We can give him the night one main event. There you go, CM Punk. You kind of get to main event WrestleMania. The thing is too, is that I could totally see them saving this feud for like a year out, but look, I want to see this and I want to see this now, so why let it fester? Let's just pull the trigger on this. Now, I don't think that Randy Orton is going to end up defeating Roman Reigns for the World Championship, but I do think that he's going to end up having a major program with somebody like a Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania. So what if they don't do that? That leaves Randy Orton in limbo. That leaves him as a top babyface on SmackDown, and we need to find a top heel on SmackDown to have him go up against. And I think that the other top major heel that is a legitimate threat to somebody like a Randy Orton would be somebody like Bobby Lashley. However, Bobby Lashley is terrible at his job because he's supposed to be a heel, but everyone just wants to love Bobby Lashley. But look, this matchup is worthy of the WrestleMania card. Bobby Lashley versus Randy Orton doesn't need some sort of super intricate storyline. These are just two major marquee names. Next up, we have Drew McIntyre taking on Sheamus. Now, as of the making of this video, there's no narrative thread between Drew McIntyre and Sheamus, Sheamus that could warrant this match, but I think there very easily could be. Because right now, the WWE is telling the story of the downward spiral of Drew McIntyre, somebody who keeps alienating people that were his former friends because he's got this paranoia of woe is me, all these horrible things happened to me even though they weren't my fault. And I think that once Sheamus comes back from injury, it's very possible that they end up sending him to Monday Night Raw, and that the downward spiral of Drew McIntyre could inevitably lead to friction between these two as Sheamus tries to beat into Drew McIntyre that he's being a little bitch and he needs to man up. Plus, these guys just have constant banger after banger after banger. It's been a very long time since we've seen these two take on one another, and I'm down for it one more time. To me, this is like the most surprising matchup that I'm making, not because it's Charlotte versus Bianca Belair, because I think that's obvious. I think that's what the WWE is setting up, but somehow I don't think that it's going to end up being for the titles. I think that the WWE is going to simply rely on the star power, the fact that this is a women's dream match, and they're going to use that to sell it. And I think that's great because we can allow the WWE Women's Championship to go do something else aside from having to be around the waist of Charlotte and Bianca Belair. Because it's true, these two do not need a title to have a marquee match. The names alone make this an incredibly important WrestleMania matchup. Now, if the intent is to make them a night one main event, then maybe we would need the title, but I think that night one main event, I'm cementing for CM Punk versus Seth Rollins here. But everything that I'm seeing, these two being buddies with one another, it just doesn't make sense for it to last in the long run. At some point, egos are gonna get in the way. Charlotte is gonna attack Bianca Belair most likely, and we're gonna have this matchup at WrestleMania. It's just too perfect that they're buddies going into WrestleMania season. I'm telling you, this is going to be one of those like super obvious ones that we're all going to see coming from a mile away. Charlotte's going to turn on Bianca. So that leaves the WWE Women's Championship, and I think it's going to end up being a fatal four-way with all of the members, I guess active in-ring members of Damage Control. So that would be Io Sky versus Bayley versus Kairi Sane versus Asuka. I debated having this be Io Sky versus Bayley in a one-on-one, but I didn't know what to do with Kairi and Asuka in this situation because they're so interwoven into this storyline. I also think that there's a strong case for maybe having Bayley be the one that wins the Women's Royal Rumble. I think that'd be pretty neat as well. But with Damage Control consistently losing, even though we thought that they were going to become super dominant, I think it's time to pull the trigger on the breakup storyline and have it culminate at WrestleMania for the WWE Women's Championship. And I'm going to be honest, I would be super hyped for this. I would be super hyped for this to not be Charlotte versus Bianca and for them to give us something new, something different. A fatal four-way for the Women's Championship is something that we haven't really seen. And there's a deep interwoven storyline between all four of these women that could easily be told to tell a main event caliber Women's World Championship storyline. And frankly, if given enough time, this match would slap. This would be so good. So yeah, give it to me. Fatal four-way for the Women's Championship. And yeah, you saw this one coming. Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. I think it's an obvious one. You know, for a little while there, we thought, oh, maybe it's The Rock. He's back. He ain't back. You got fooled. We got bamboozled. The people's champion is the people's chump. He is not back. It's gonna be Cody Rhodes. I don't think Cody Rhodes is winning the Royal Rumble again. I think that they're going to set up some sort of like heartbreak storyline that he wasn't able to win it. He might be very well the last person that gets eliminated as well. But I'm sure that there's probably going to be a different way to qualify to face against Roman Reigns, which could be something at Elimination Chamber, for example. Or they just straight up have him win the Royal Rumble again back to back, which would I would just absolutely hate that. It's time for Cody Rhodes to attempt to finish the story again. You knew we were inevitably going to come back to this with how WrestleMania 39 ended. Do I think he's going to finish the story? That's a different type of video because I don't really think that the story is going to be ending anytime soon. I think that Roman is going to be breaking the Hulkster's record. But still, I think that this is what they're setting up. I think it's obvious. I think it's the right choice. I think it is. I think it is a better choice than The Rock versus Roman Reigns for the title. I think it should be Cody Rhodes. But yeah, you knew that this video was going to end with this. It was an obvious one. That's why I saved it to the end. Anyways, that's it. I'm done. Those are my WrestleMania match card predictions. Let me know what other matches you would add because there's some other major WWE superstars that I left off that would obviously have matches like Kevin Owens, Austin Theory, Sami Zayn, and so much more. So let me know what other matches would you add to this video. That's it. I'm done. Get out of here.